Well, you found us. Thanks for joining us here on ARC Salt Lake. I'm Brian Schnee. Tuesday night, January 27th. This evening, we are sitting down with a few attorneys who've worked on some high-profile cases, and one of which is now joining a local law firm. We'll talk all about the different cases. It is fascinating. But first, got to take a look at our weather here. I think I'd like to know when we're going to the S word at some point. Sean.
Yeah, nothing big here in the forecast, unfortunately. Maybe a little bit of some very light snow up into the mountains tomorrow. But down in the valleys here, our dry streak continues, and it's really not looking good in the long range either. Something's got to break down with the overall nationwide pattern that we're dealing with, all the snow and cold out towards the east. We need that to end to get a trough and a dip in the jet stream over here with some cold weather and some active storms. It is chilly out there right now after a pretty mild day. We're currently at 36 degrees, but technically that is, for the most part, pretty mild for this time of the year and this hour. We're going to be dealing with temperatures for the Jazz game later on this evening. Tip off at 8 p.m. and those temperatures will be going from the 30s down close to freezing for those heading home, and downtown going to be out and about. Will be a chilly evening and improving air quality conditions here through the remainder of the week, though worsening conditions likely by the end of the weekend into the upcoming weekend. So we've got some shower chances tomorrow, so you may want to hold off and get in the car wash. You're good to go though by Thursday and Friday as that warm weather rolls back in. We're going to be back into the 50s by the weekend. We'll talk about that coming up in my first alert weather forecast.
Kind of getting into the legal side of things tonight here on the show, which is very fun because we do that often here on ARC Salt Lake. Jim McConkey, Richard Lambert with us tonight. Great to have you both with us. Richard, I know you're joining the team here. That's another reason why we're talking about that. Jim, what does it mean to have Richard join the crew here at Parker McConkey?
It means a lot, let me tell you. This guy was the chief criminal prosecutor in Utah for many, many years, and he brings real experience to the firm, especially because we're a firm that's interested in social justice issues. And right now, with all of the riots and the difficulties that we're having with ICE and the police problems in Minnesota, for example, it's important that attorneys represent people that have been harmed when they've gone to exercise their First Amendment rights.
I'm glad you brought that up because justice and accountability, that is what you mentioned in the paperwork that I saw about the announcement. Mm-hmm. Justice and accountability, what has that always been and meant for you at Parker McConkey?
Well, it's been a great deal. We've had a number of civil rights cases. I represented the McCluskey family at the University of Utah, went through that those terrible issues with the murder on campus of a lovely young woman who was studying at the university, a track star, and we finally got that settled. And I hope because of it now, and I believe this is true, that the University of Utah is a safer place for women to pursue their educational opportunities. And so these are the kinds of cases we like to do. We've got Petito, the Gabby Petito case, that comes up for an argument in the Supreme Court here in just a couple of weeks. And that's another case where we're trying to hold institutions responsible for doing the right thing. Police officers should not harm citizens. And when they do, there should be consequences. And so Richard, with his background as a prosecutor, and Brent Ward, who unfortunately isn't here today, he's off in Hawaii, I shouldn't say that, but he would have been here instead of me. But he also was the United States Attorney for 10 years. And so they bring real clout and heft when we go after these kinds of issues.
Institutional knowledge, years of major cases,
right.
Kind of like the firm. I was going through some of the cases that you've had involvement in, Richard, and obviously if you've lived in Utah or have been around the block or have watched Netflix lately, you know about Elizabeth Smart. What was your involvement in that case?
I was involved, in fact, it was the last case I was involved in before I retired as an assistant U.S. attorney. And the Elizabeth Smart kidnapping, the abduction, the abuse, initially was brought by the state of Utah, by the district attorney's office in Salt Lake. And unfortunately, it had stalled in the Utah court system. because as you may remember, Mr. Mitchell, when he came into court, started singing hymns. And his attorneys said to the court, Mr. Mitchell is not competent to stand trial. He's mentally deranged. And ultimately, after a 4-year period of time, the district court judge in Utah held that indeed he was not competent to stand trial. And that finding was appealed up to the Utah Supreme Court, and the Utah Supreme Court held that Mr. Mitchell indeed was crazy and that he was untreatable, unrecoverable from his situation. And so he was placed down in the state hospital in Provo to stay as long as he was no longer considered by the psychiatrist down there as an imminent danger. And as soon as they made that finding, Mr. Mitchell would have walked out the door immune from state prosecution. And the U.S. attorney at that time, Brett Tolman, and myself thought, you know, this is a miscarriage of justice. We personally did not believe that Mr. Mitchell was crazy. He certainly had mental issues, but he was a manipulator. And in his state hearing, the state prosecutors had not called Elizabeth herself to testify. So we decided that there were federal charges that we could bring against him. He had transported, after kidnapping Elizabeth, he had transported her across state lines to California. That constituted a federal kidnapping offense, and so we brought the charges against him. He was taken out of the state mental hospital and put in federal custody, and then we went through the whole competency process with a federal judge. And this time the federal judge, Dale Kimball, after hearing from Elizabeth and from a fine psychiatrist who said basically this is a manipulator, this is a phony guy, and found him able to stand trial federally, and he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. The jury was out, I think, 3 hours before he was convicted.
I have lots of follow-ups, but you've been involved in some really interesting cases, so we'll have to go one at a time.
Yeah, sure.
Because, just for the sake of the timing here, and where we're at right now, in just a few weeks, the man that was connected to Kiplin Davis's killing, although we don't know where Kiplin Davis is scheduled to be released from prison. Again, if you've been in Utah, or you know some of the criminal elements over the years, the Kiplin Davis story has been covered year over year over year, and Timothy Olson is going to get out in just a few weeks here in early February. What stands out to you from the years of working on that one?
Well, it was a cold case when we got it on the federal side of things. Kiplin had disappeared from Springville High School, or excuse me, Spanish Fork High School. And some people in law enforcement said, well, she just ran away. And yet there were rumors in the community that something had happened to her. And thank heavens for Richard Davis and Tamara Davis, who actually, having witnessed what was done in the Elizabeth Smart case, Richard and Tamara came to the U.S. Attorney's Office and said, can you undertake a grand jury investigation in our daughter's disappearance? I mean, to us, she was as important as Elizabeth Smart, and she hasn't been heard from for all these years, and there are rumors going about of what happened to her. And so we said, yeah, we ought to look into it. We ended up having, I think, what was the most extensive grand jury investigation in Utah history. Over a period of 2 years, we subpoenaed 187 witnesses before the federal grand jury, where they had to take an oath to tell the truth and under penalty of perjury. And they did, and it led to the grand jury indicting Timmy Olson, Rucker Leifson, and one of their accomplices, Chris Jepson.
Does it still bother you that she has not been located?
Absolutely. Yeah, for all of us who are parents, when we have loved ones who have disappeared, the closure can't come when they still have been not located.
Of the trifecta here, the big three that at least were shared with us of the cases that you've had involved with here, the Valerie Clark Miller case, which is just years, decades of cover-up, if you will, by the state. And then they come out and they admit it back in 2022. And if you look at the letter, who they sent the letter to saying, we made a mistake, from the commissioner at the time, Jess Anderson with DPS, your name is at the bottom of that letter of recipients. What was it like to get that letter after all those years?
Well, it was a great relief, and it was a real feeling of closure to see Valerie's husband, John, her children, and family members who for almost 50 years had dealt with the tremendous trauma that Valerie had suffered at the hands of a highway patrolman, and yet had gotten no satisfaction from Utah law enforcement for all of those years, and finally, again, after 50 years, an acknowledgement that there was, in effect, a cover-up.
Richard, Jim, thank you both for coming in. We could talk about a lot of these things for much longer, but we've overstayed our welcome on this point. Thanks for both of you for coming in, and congratulations for your joining of the team over there at Parker McConkey. So we did have a longer conversation, and we'll try to get it up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. Coming up on ARC Salt Lake, the legislature wants a bell-to-bell ban on cell phones. What the lawmaker proposing the bill has to say. State lawmakers are working on getting cell phones out of the entire school day. Oh, what was that like? A new bill would make this a default rule, which districts can take from there. Natalie Wattis questioned the bill's sponsor about the proposal and possible pushback.
Can you speak to why you're sponsoring this?
During a meeting with Senate leaders this afternoon, Republican Senator Lincoln Fillmore of Salt Lake County answered my questions.
What we've had, since cell phones were invented, is a policy that says you can do whatever you want. So districts, you figure out how to limit the damage. And that's just been the wrong approach, because there's been way too much damage that's happened to the rising generation from the constant attention that cell phones grab from them.
Fillmore says they're resetting the default state cell phone usage rule during the school day to 0, while still allowing school districts to adopt their own policies and exceptions. This bill amends a previous bill that said no phones, only during classroom hours, not the full day.
We ran a similar bill last year that kind of dropped the default down to 50. I'd like to take the second step to get it from 50 down to 0.
And what about pushback from parents?
There are some parents that are against it, not very many.
The Senate Democratic Caucus said they support this bill, as well as the Utah Education Association.
This has made a difference in kids' attention spans in class, and it has decreased any of the distractions. And kids have said that they are more engaged with their peers, having conversations, interacting.
With one exception.
The one piece of the bill that might cause some of our students some heartburn is the piece about not having a cell phone at lunch.
If this bill passes, it will go into effect in July. At the Capitol, Natalie Wattis, KUTV 2 News.
School?
Oh, yeah.
You had a cell phone in school?
I think I had a cell phone starting 8th, 7th
Really?
grade.
Mine was later than that. I just wasn't on it the whole time.
I mean,
don't
back
know.
then, though, I didn't have the internet on it. Just had the game Snake.
America Online,
yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that?
So.
Can somebody get off the phone? Like, I can't get, yeah, that's hilarious. Sorry, we're just killing time because there's nothing to talk about in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet, and it's sad, really, especially if you're a skier, you're a snow
Take a
lover.
look.
We've got really not much in the forecast here. We do have a little bit of a weak storm tomorrow. I mean, the majority of us won't see much, but we could see maybe a dusting here in the northern valleys, but more so up into the mountains, could see maybe an inch and a half or so. But then all eyes on the weekend, warmer weekend ahead, hazy inversions return, a dry start to the month of February, and this boring weather pattern likely will continue on. There's a look at the overall jet stream, a little bit of a weak disturbance tomorrow. High pressure system builds back in, and this will give us the dry conditions and the above normal temperatures. And unfortunately now that week 2 forecast, which places us all the way through February 10th, showing that it's more of the same. This pattern is still sticking around with drier than normal conditions for much of the west and above normal conditions for much of the Intermountain West as well. Again, through February 10th. I think just beyond that, that's our opportunity here to start to see some changes. So February 11th through 15th, maybe we could start to see more active weather. That's what we're going to be keeping an eye out for. But again, dealing with a historic dry start to our winter. 59% of median for our snowpack. It continues to go down in the wrong direction here across the valleys. We're dealing with the least amount of snowfall on record to date for the Salt Lake Valley. Have only picked up 1/10 of an inch of snow. We are several feet below normal. So we were in the moderate category today for air quality, improving conditions tomorrow, especially into Thursday, and then worsening conditions by the end of the week and into the weekend as that haze returns. We're into the 30s right now. It's been quite mild today and almost spring-like out there with temperatures well into the 40s. But we're cooling things down already in Vernal and Price at 28 degrees, 28 in Hanksville, 31 in Panguitch, 47 in St. George. There's our storm back out towards the west, though it's going to lose its kind of punch as it moves further out towards the east. It'll be noticeably cloudier tomorrow morning. Dry conditions, and then there's that chance for some snow moving in by lunchtime through about 3-4 o'clock. That'll be our opportunity here in the valleys. It'll be more so a few snow flurries here for the valleys, and then across some of the higher terrain up into the mountains could maybe see an inch or two. That'll be a possibility with some lingering snow showers through 6 p.m. and then it's out of here. And that's really about it. Thursday, we get clipped by another weak system to the north. This one has no moisture with it. A few flurries up into the Cache Valley area, and that is about it. So in terms of snowfall amounts, this is on the higher end of what we're dealing with here, where we can maybe see an inch or two for some of the mountains and just, again, a dusting for the valleys. Those lows overnight, we are down into the 20s and teens. It'll be another cold one. Highs tomorrow into the 40s, so a little bit cooler. See a mix of rain and snow showers will be possible. Again, this is not a big storm, kind of sad, but it'll be enough to kind of clean out the air once again. St. George, you're looking at temperatures here warming things up back up into the 60s as we head into the weekend. St. George, you've got lovely weather here for much of the week into next week. And then across the Wasatch Front, there's that drop in the temperatures tomorrow, but then we warm things back up. Hazy skies return, mild weather, golfing weather by Saturday and Sunday.
Cold enough right now to go skate. Galvin
Yeah.
Plaza, if you'd like to do it, just not getting any snow around it to give it that nice winter
Yeah.
feel.
We have to
It
find a
stinks,
way
man.
to take advantage of it.
Four
I guess,
seasons. We're missing around like 3.5
know,
right now.
I know.
Not good. All right. Thank you, Sean. A very Utah, you know you're in Utah sort of story here coming up on Arc Salt Lake. It's, you know you're in Utah when we're talking about a new liquor store opening up. Moab is getting a new store when the new location will open. Well, the state's getting ready to open a brand new liquor store in Moab. The new store, opening February 2nd, is at 963 Main Street. This one is 3 times larger than Moab's current liquor store. It will have longer hours and offer 36 doors of refrigerated drinks. There we go, Utah. Way to realize cold is better. During the first 5 months of operation, the store is expected to make $3.5 million. Moab's current liquor store will close for good on Saturday.
The Super Bowl of Caring. Brought to you by America First Credit Union, Smith's, Check City, Ford, Balance of Nature, and Rocky Mountain Power.
You can help end child hunger in Utah with our Super Bowl of Caring. Scan the QR code on your screen or go to our website for more information on how to donate. Just $10 can help feed a child for a weekend. Sean, thanks for hanging. Feels like it's been a while.
It's been a while, but I'm back.
All right,
I'm back.
so back.
We're so back.
We are back tomorrow at 7. See ya.